Welcome to Build Your Maverick Business, the podcast for underdog, outlier, and renegade entrepreneurs. If you dream of going off on your own and launching your rebel empire, but don't know where to start, you're in the right place. We'll teach you how to use mindset, branding, and practical advice to build a killer business and transform your world. And now, here's your host, Alex Pitt.
Hello, welcome back. It is the first day back after bank holiday, which means obviously I'm in a massive flap trying to do about 15,000 things at once. And I woke up really cranky because I had a nice weekend and Tuesday on a Monday is all confusing. We don't know where we are. And it's pissing it down with rain. I did jinx it. It's horrible out there. Anyway, between client work, general life activities, and my phone popping off, I'm really quite distracted and a bit all over the place today. When I say my phone popping off, I'm starting to think I might be in one too many group chats. And when I say one too many, I mean probably 6 or 7 too many. There's just so much going on all the time. And it's all good fun. And I allow myself to become distracted. Yeah, all kinds of shit that I'm being updated on today. What have we got? One of my friends has sustained an injury. A piercing has been ripped out. Won't tell you where it was. As much as this podcast isn't exactly family friendly, I think I'll leave that one out. There's plans being made, there's recommendations being shared. I have this one particular chat, which is, there's 9 of us in it, so it's a very busy one, with some of my friends of about 15 years. And we always laugh about the stark contrast of the group, because one person will have just ended up at a Brits after party, rubbing shoulders with a gaggle of celebrities, and gotten in at like 10 o'clock the next morning. But within an hour of that, someone is asking for a recommendation for a mop. So we like to keep it balanced. I think such is the nature of your 30s, isn't it? Especially in this day and age. We've got a bit of crossover between the roaring 20s and the slightly more adult years, I suppose. I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to grow up. Anyway, I do have a point, I promise. In this group, in this particular group chat that I mentioned with the 9 of us, we have this running joke that we don't really know what each other does for a living. I don't know if you've seen any of those viral videos of groups of friends who have done actual PowerPoint presentations to each other to explain it. This is a great idea, by the way. We did try and organise one for us, but with 9 of you, it gets quite tricky to fit a date in. But it does really make me laugh that we don't necessarily know. After all of these years of being friends, don't know what each other does for a job. I suppose, though, it is because that's not really the realm that we coexist in. We hang out, we drink wine, we talk about all sorts, and we'll probably do a bit of a casual housework check-in every now and then. But for all intents and purposes, we don't really need to know what each other does. We want some gossip on that twat that you sit next to from HR that was trying to get you in trouble that one time, you know, the juicy stuff. But we just really want to know that we're all happy and healthy. Now, this brings me to the point of this episode, and I'm doing this even though I've done something quite similar in the past, because it's something that keeps grating at me. It's a pet peeve of mine. I'm just going to get back up on my big old soapbox and whinge a little bit. Who's going to stop me? So what is this whinge about, I hear you ask? It's about LinkedIn, of course. Now, I am actually pretty active on LinkedIn these days, so it does make me laugh as I scroll through my timeline how much content is being churned onto my activity feed that has nothing to do with what people do for a living. It's absolutely fine for me and my pals to not know what each other does for a job. What I cannot understand is why people are putting so much shit into the ether that has nothing to do with their actual career, what service they are providing, what industry they work in, or just anything to do with work, quite frankly. Like I say, I have been having to up my game on LinkedIn recently. I can feel the outcry already. What are you on about? Don't you already have an episode or 12 where you talk about the perils of LinkedIn and how ridiculous it is? Yes, I do, and I stand by a lot of it. LinkedIn is a batshit corner of the internet, and to reiterate my issues with it, I've said it before, it reads like a country music song. My timeline reads like a country music song. My dog died. My wife left me. I can't afford to fix my car. Once upon a time, I found myself being stalked by a particularly rage-fueled seagull on Brighton Pier, and here's what it taught me about B2B sales. Fuck off. The platform is a plethora of some quite mad stories, a lot of sickening humble brags, far too much emotion rage bait, but we'll come back to that in a minute. However, there are also lots of clients on LinkedIn, and if you're looking for work, if you're looking for an opportunity, it's a good place to be. There are a lot of people you can collaborate with. There's a lot of people whose help I need and who need my help help on there. Now, whilst I cannot condone a lot of the unfiltered dross that makes it onto my activity feed, onto my timeline, I am happy to report that I found plenty of great opportunities by consistently showing up and posting things on LinkedIn. You know what though? I'm pretty confident that wouldn't be the case if I'd been following some of the patterns that I'm seeing more and more frequently on this platform. So for the sake of today's episode, we're going to make it useful, we're going to make it actionable. I'm going to call out some of the more common tropes, some of the more common mistakes I see, and offer a more practical set of steps to take instead. So this, let's call it the guide of how not to suck at LinkedIn if you are looking to actually utilise the platform to get opportunities, not just to get attention for the sake of it. If that sounds good, listen on, my friends. Right, so first up, the one that really pisses me off, storytelling with no point. Now, I mentioned rambles about a seagull, right? As much as that is a ridiculous fucking example, it did end with, this is what it taught me about B2B sales. So at least someone's saying what they actually do for a living. At least they're saying, here is what I can offer you in exchange for some money. As ridiculous and not fucking true as some of these stories seem to be. So storytelling with no point is a big mistake. Storytelling is powerful. Absolutely. But no, telling some random shit that has happened to you in your life doesn't necessarily belong on LinkedIn unless it does lead to a business relevant takeaway. Don't just come on and start talking about that time you stole a Mars bar when you were 10. Why is it relevant? If you're not using stories to build trust, explain what you do, or show how you help people, then you're just rambling. And there are plenty of platforms for that. Using storytelling effectively, however, is a good thing to do. So tell us a story that has a moral, a takeaway, which directly relates to something you want your clients to know. You want people to get that you know what you're talking about without boring them with facts and figures or just humble bragging about your achievements. So for example, last week I talked about working at a supermarket, what it taught me about user experience. Yes, it's a story. Yes, it involves a fish counter. But it has a point that directly leads back to something I would like people to understand about my industry. Something that I think if they better understood, it would make their lives easier. The storytelling part is just a tool to keep them emotionally engaged so that I can whip in a little bit of authority at the end, and that listener, that reader, can hopefully walk away with a useful piece of information that also gives me credibility as someone who has experience in this area, in this industry. So to break that system down, to break the process down, it goes like this. Step 1, you get the emotional buy-in from an interesting story. Step 2, the reader learns something. And step 3, the storyteller appears knowledgeable in the area of their expertise. So using storytelling effectively has to result in the person reading it understanding what you do for a living and what they can hire you to do. Why you are an expert in your field, why you've got that experience. Not just some random shit that happened to you last Tuesday. Okay, the next one. This is what I mentioned earlier about rage baiting, emotion baiting, and oversharing in the name of authenticity. Authenticity in air quotes. Being vulnerable and authentic does not mean you have to put up a picture of your colonoscopy. Fucking hell, you think I'm joking? Some of the things I've seen on my LinkedIn timeline recently include someone who started their post with, I've been thinking a lot about death recently. Pretty sure they worked in HR as well, so I'm not exactly jumping to recommend them to lead us anytime soon. There was one fella that had posted a picture of their toddler in the back of an ambulance. Pleased to report that the child was fine, other than the trauma of waiting for daddy to get the money shot for LinkedIn before they were allowed to get to A&E. More recently, I saw a post where someone had shared a really graphic photo of an injury they'd sustained. I could not even tell you the point of that post or what they did for a living. And luckily, I had just finished eating lunch, or I would be skipping a meal that day. There's also the, I guess, let's call it sad fishing for clicks, emotion baiting. Whether it's getting people to just be angry for the sake of it, trauma dumping. If it doesn't serve your audience and your brand, what is the point? I remember having a conversation once with a client who was absolutely buzzing because one of her posts was getting loads and loads of comments. All of the comments were really dusty old men complaining that she was too woke, too this, too that, you know? People complaining that they didn't like what she was doing. They weren't her audience, they weren't her fans, and they were never going to buy from her. The point of this is just to be strategic, right? Not every single opinion you have needs to be shared. Not every trauma needs to be posted. You want engagement, absolutely, but the right kind. Now, if you do want to be be authentic, if you do want to come across as having some level of vulnerability, there are nice ways that you can do this and there are effective ways that you can do this. For example, putting behind the scenes content up to build trust without turning it into therapy. People want to work with people. Absolutely. This is where not just stating facts and figures is useful. They don't want to be working with polished robots. Neither do they want to work with the sob story soapboxes. Real humans doing real work. So instead of broadcasting trauma or dumping every little micro thought that you are having, why not just show what it looks like to actually work with you? Whack up a picture of a messy whiteboard from your latest brainstorm, an email or a DM that saved your client from some kind of panic spiral because you solved a problem for them, a screenshot of a lovely Slack exchanged with a little win baked in. It's not, you don't have to overshare, you can just be a little bit honest about what your day looks like. It's saying, hey, I know my stuff, this is how I do it, do you want in? Another way around this is to just share your opinion on something and invite other people to do the same. I saw a post that I absolutely loved the other day. It was this copywriter sharing a billboard campaign that they loved and they were clearly really excited about. The energy of this post was infectious and I got that they were passionate about that area of expertise, about copywriting. They shared what they loved about the billboard campaign, why it was so good, and they invited other people to share their thoughts. Not a wounded body part in sight. So I invite you this week, if you're trying to up your LinkedIn game, sharing day-to-day stuff, opinions, processes, interesting stories that have a point, things that build credibility and connection. You do not need a trauma arc. You just need to show yourself as someone people can trust. All right, pals, I've got a lot of WhatsApps to catch up with. Have a wonderful week. I will catch you here next time. If you love what you're hearing in this podcast, but you are still yet to start that rebel empire of your own, I've got something that might help. Head over to the show notes of this episode where you will find a free 7-step action plan to kickstarting your first side hustle. It's got pretty pictures, it's got activities. What more could you want, my loves? Get it downloaded, try it out, let me know how you get on.